are you familiar with the sunk cost fallacy? Where, just brief generalization is you have reevaluated some decision that you're making. Say you're going to college, doing a certain major, and you feel obligated to finish that major because you've put a lot of time and effort into it. I should see it through completion.
Right.
I've put a lot of time and effort into this career. I've gotten a promotion. I've made good connections. I should stay here because there's a path upward.
Yeah.
That time and money and resources have been spent regardless of what you do in the future. So the fallacy is that it's really just you having to convince yourself that that time wasn't wasted.
Yeah.
So a very black and white example is you're driving to a supermarket that you know is 10 minutes away. 5 minutes away, you realize it's much later than I thought. It's actually closed. So the sunk cost fallacy would then sort of push you to just go the 5 more minutes. I mean, you're already halfway there. Why turn around when clearly that is a misguided use of your time? You know,
because it's closed.
Right. Where you should just turn around and cut your losses. You're 5 minutes away, just turn around 5 minutes back home. Don't waste the extra 10 minutes.
Yes.
A lot of life isn't as black and white. It's not going to be as clear as I'm in a dead-end job that has no way to move forward. Like there's nothing that can happen that would be able to have an improvement. There's so many ever-changing variables. It's impossible to predict what's going to happen later. Yeah. So my question is, what's the balance between making sure you're not falling into that sunk cost fallacious thinking of I'm bound to do whatever I'm doing because I spent a lot of time and resources into it, versus rationalizing yourself out of a difficult challenge? Because a lot of worthwhile things take time to develop. You're not going to start a career great at it. You're not going to jump into a relationship and everything's going to be having amazing communication and you're all going to have a great time together. Yeah. It takes a lot of effort to really make something truly worthwhile. And if you're constantly thinking, I don't want to get caught up in this sunk cost thinking, you would just be jumping from one thing to the next, always reevaluating, which is healthy, but potentially leaving challenges through rationalizing this is the best thing for me when really it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this brings a couple of fundamental human problems together. One is like you only live one life, and so you'll never even know if any decision you've made in your whole life has been the best decision,
right?
Because you only get to try one path. Like I might feel like I made a good decision and not realize that the other choice 10 years ago would have actually been even better. Like I'll never even know that. So that's weird. Part of it is just, how do you find good advice? How do you find other people who you trust enough to give you advice that you respect and would actually take? Because I mean, I just kind of assume if you're the person in the situation, you don't have a good perspective because you're inside it, and you need outside perspective to have the best, most clear judgment. Of course, other people don't have inner knowledge on your thoughts and emotions, but other than that, they're going to see everything in your life more clearly than you. So I guess maybe that's a basic answer, is how do you know? Just ask someone else, because their vantage point is so much more clear.
Well, it is shockingly easy to give advice looking on what people should do, eat healthy, exercise, get up early,
yes,
get good sleep. Like, it's so easy to just point and be like, you obviously should do this.
I could fix all of your problems for you in 10 minutes.
Right. So maybe that is, maybe the key is, like you said, having advice that you'll take. Because I think that's an important distinction, because you can hear people talk ad nauseum, you should do this and should do that. But it's really hard to then make that commitment because I think a lot of people don't want, even the advice givers, that's a lot of responsibility to bear if it's a big life change for somebody.
Yes. Yeah. I think you're going to have a hard time actually finding people to say, this is what I think you should do.
Right.
Because people don't want to like have that responsibility on their hands. Like if I say, I think you should quit your job, and then maybe you do and it goes terribly, then that's like, I might feel guilty. So yeah, I find it to be very rare that someone is even willing to give that specific of advice, which is unfortunate.
I like that answer. So to prevent yourself from kind of rationalizing and talking yourself out of something that you really should stay in, say a career, and you kind of don't want to, so you're trying to just convince yourself that you should move to something else, that just having a third party is going to be a big step forward.
I think so, yeah. And the real problem is, how do you find that third party? Because there are plenty of people. I mean, I shouldn't say like that way, like that. I don't know if there's a single person that I would completely trust to make a decision for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's people I love and respect for different reasons, but I'm hard pressed to name a single person that I would allow to take the steering wheel of my life in such a direct way that what they said, I'm actually going to do.
Well, I think what you clarified in your last point where you were saying nobody's going to know exactly what's going on in your mind and exactly how you're feeling. I think that'd be unwise then to have somebody just to have complete control, because you should just always be updating the data on where is the best way to move forward. And you can really, really highly value somebody's opinion. That can dramatically change how much weight you put on that. But I agree with you that it's then misguided to extend that to, I'm absolutely going to do whatever they say.
Yeah. It would be nice. It would be nice to have that sometimes. You don't have to bear the responsibility of making your own choice, but
I think that get rid of a lot of the highs too. You need to bear that I messed up to be able to have the I did great.
I agree.
All right. Well, that's a great answer. 1 for 1. You're batting 1,000. Great job, Nathan.
That's a great question. And it's so tough to know what you should do, right? And think about it all the time.
Well, it's very easy to look back and see where you fell into that sunk cost of like, I really should have reassessed. But it's so hard to separate that feeling of I wasted all this time. I
guess I didn't
money.
really answer your question, did I? Because it's about sunk cost specifically. And how do you actually get good at cutting your losses? I'm not sure I am good at that.
I don't think many people are. And I would say you did answer it, at least in the way that I was wanting an answer. Okay. Maybe not exactly how I worded it, but
practically speaking, yeah, it would be the same thing. You just try to get some outside perspective. But specifically for sunk cost, just being familiar with that concept, I think, is a big help of realizing it doesn't make it make sense just because you already invested some time, energy, money, whatever.
Don't be so committed to a mistake just because you spent a long time making it.
Yeah. Here's something I think about. So there's kind of I don't think this is the same thing, but a goal I have for myself is to imagine like I'm 80 years old one day. And maybe the thing that I've believed or worked towards my whole life maybe whether it be like religion or a career, like a
Mm-hmm.
project that I have poured my whole life into.
Yeah.
I find out I'm wrong, I'm dead wrong, or all of my work has really been, I thought I was doing great. I thought I was recycling all those plastic bottles, but they all just got shipped to China and they were
Yeah.
thrown in the ocean. Like my life's work is a lie.
Yeah.
Would I be able to accept that, even if there was no time left in my life to redeem it? Like, all, yeah, that would be rough. Because I think you find that a lot in people is they just this unwillingness to change their mind, because it's not quite the sunk cost fallacy, but maybe it's like your brain is subconsciously performing some similar operation of like, well, I've believed this for 10 years and that would have meant that the last 10 years was a total waste. So I'm going to not believe that it was a waste.
Yeah. Well, and especially with religion, where you'd have to come to terms with saying, all of those times I was praying, I was just speaking to the vast expanse of nothing.
Yeah, you might feel stupid.
Right.
You might realize that you did something wrong that you thought was right.
Yeah. So
Or even like a crusade, like you went on a crusade and you killed people.
Yeah.
Yeah, how easily are you gonna accept that those were all just a mistake?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be rough. So anyways, that's like kind of a personal goal.
The goal is to be able to accept that you were wrong.
Yeah, like, at the end of my life, still be open enough and to accept that maybe like something I worked on my whole life was actually misguided, and just be able to accept that and have peace with it.
Well, with your talking about crusades, I know that was not something that most of us can relate to, but there's a lot of people in the military who come back and then have to reevaluate. Like, not all that long ago when people came back and were like being picketed, like, you baby killers, was it Vietnam or Korea, whatever.
Yeah.
I wasn't alive yet, where they were in a horrible situation. Everyone was in a horrible situation. They didn't they didn't decide, oh, I am gonna want to go do whatever atrocity. They have to do whatever is being told for them to do. And I know that's really easy to say, well, just say no when you're not in that situation. So,
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with either the Vietnam War or the Korean War. But yeah, it sounds like the Vietnam War was pretty rough, like guerrilla style, just chaos.
but then coming back after, whether it was right or wrong, whether people were there,
Yeah.
having to see and experience, atrocities constantly, and then coming back, and then it being forced for you to immediately reevaluate, was everything I did wrong?
Yeah.
After having been probably thrilled to get out of whatever situation it was and come back and then have it immediately be thrown on you, not being 80 years old of like, did I think this wrong? But while it's still fresh, having to think and immediately reflect of, did I make mistakes?